If you like Dwayne Johnson, you will love him in this comedy buddy spy movie, co-starring Kevin Hart. It is a spy movie, and there are some serious things going on, but it's all wrapped around comic relief virtually every step of the way. They do keep you guessing as to who is on whose side, in a sense like a 1939 British intelligence movie. But we're gonna decode Central Intelligence today. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
From our podcast, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies, and our website, spymovienavigator.com, the premier go-to resources for spy movie fans. Join us as we decode the 2016 movie Central Intelligence. I think this is an enjoyable movie. Kevin Hart is Dwayne Johnson's comedy buddy here, so you know it will be funny. And Kevin does a pretty darn good job of playing his role here.
Yeah, I think there's some enjoyable parts here. And I also want to point out, Dan, that we've talked about some R-rated movies recently, and you thought they were pretty violent. Well, Central Intelligence is rated PG-13. It's much more toned down than those other movies.
Yeah.
And I think this is another one of those where there's a series now called Central Intelligence. We're talking about the 2016 movie, not this thing. I hate it when they do these names like this. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. All right. Before we jump into the plot, let's start with a trivia question. We'll answer this one at the end of this episode.
Yeah, let's do that, Dan. So the question is, what does the license plate on the red truck at the end of Central Intelligence say?
Okay.
And again, we're going to answer that at the end. It's an important plot point because it's based on another movie. And we'll talk a little bit about what that other movie is as we go through this.
All right. Again, we'll answer that at the end of this episode. All right. On to Central Intelligence.
So Central Intelligence combines action and comedy. Like I say, for the most part, works. So let's take a quick look at the plot. There's this guy, Calvin Joyner, who's played by Kevin Hart, is a mild-mannered accountant who was once the popular kid in high school. His life takes a turn when he's contacted by a Bob Stone, played by Dwayne Johnson, who was a former classmate who was bullied in high school, but is now a muscular and confident CIA agent.
Yeah.
Bob needs Calvin's accounting skills to help him decipher some encrypted financial data. So he's on a mission to prevent the sale of classified military secrets.
Mm-hmm.
This means Calvin gets unwillingly dragged into the world of espionage and must navigate some very dangerous situations. And he does this all while uncovering the truth about Bob's real identity and his intentions. You talk about a reluctant spy, Dan. We got one here.
We got another one. All right. I think Johnson and Hart's on-screen chemistry is terrific and believable. And actually, they became very good friends after they filmed this movie, and they're still friends. And there are plenty of action-packed sequences here and plenty of comedic moments.
Well, some are better than others.
Oh, absolutely. Like in any comedy, some are better than others, for sure. That keeps the story moving, it keeps it engaging, and it makes it fun. The movie explores themes of self-acceptance, friendship, relationships, and the impact of high school experiences on adult life. Okay, all of that is rolled up into this comedy. And really, it's pretty funny. You will laugh, though there are serious moments as well, but you're going to laugh a lot during this movie.
Yeah, and in the opening, there's this thing that happens that you want to laugh, but really you should be cringing.
Yeah.
But all right, this movie starts at a high school pep rally in 1996, then morphs to 20 years later. So we get to see the before. We get to see these characters when they're 20 years earlier in high school.
Yeah. This pep rally is key.
It absolutely is, because there's one kid, an overweight guy they call Fat Robbie, or worse, because his name is Robbie Weirdick. And he's shown taking a shower, and he's dancing in the shower. Right?
Yeah.
So and this is at the school. So the next thing you know, a group of kids led by Trevor Olson, and the adult version of him is played by Jason Bateman in this movie.
Yeah.
They drag him out of the shower and throw him into the pep rally naked. And of course, he's totally humiliated. So we feel for this guy right away.
They call him Fat Robbie for a reason. I mean, he is full of blubber, right? I mean, he's
not svelte.
No.
He's not a Dwayne Johnson.
No.
But he looks like Dwayne Johnson.
Yes, we're going to get into that later, man. That's good. Good stuff. Go ahead.
Kevin Hart plays Calvin Joyner, who's the high school star athlete. He's got his varsity jacket. On the back of his varsity jacket is his nickname, the Golden Jet. Mm-hmm. He's athlete. He's a thespian. I mean, he's everything in this school, right?
Yeah.
He's the stud of the school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he and his girlfriends are the only ones who aren't laughing when they throw Fat Robbie into the gym.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
pick out a
It's a tough moment to see. I mean,
yeah, yeah, it really is. It is, but it's also when it first happened, uh, I'm sorry, I'm fat, and I still laughed, and then I
yeah.
went, oh God, I probably shouldn't be laughing at this. All
All
right,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right.
So Calvin gives Fat Robbie his jacket so he can cover up his private parts, and Fat Robbie thanks him and sneaks off. Tons of embarrassment, of course, and it's you got to cringe because when you know in real life this would be pretty sad thing, right? But
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine that being done to you?
yeah.
Yikes!
All right, we fast forward 20 years, we find that Fat Robbie, or Robbie Weird Dick, has become a very valuable agent in the CIA intelligence agency, and he is in tip-top shape, Dwayne Johnson shape. Wow. Now, I want to say a couple of things. We're talking about, hey, this happens in 1996 when they graduate. It's 20 years later. This movie was 2016. All of the people that played in the graduation ceremony in 1996 were the same actors who played it 20 years later when they go back to the high school, except for the guy you mentioned that plays Trevor Olson.
Yep.
Right. That's the only one. And also, here's something that you want to keep in mind during the watching of this movie. Weirdick in German is Wehrdich, and it means defend yourself.
Ooh, I did not catch that. I thought they were just doing it's a weird dick.
Because I'm thinking, why did they name him that? I mean, that's kind of a, yeah, they're playing on Weird Dick and whatever. But now that means a hell of a lot to this movie because it's almost a command to him to defend yourself and a command to others that you better watch out and defend yourself because Robbie now is looking pretty good as Bob Stone. All right.
I like that a lot. I had no clue. I just thought it was a play on the word.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned that a lot of these actors are the same actors 20 years earlier, which means they had to do some de-aging of them. And how do you turn Dwayne Johnson into this fat guy dancing in the shower?
Yeah.
Right. And I also wanted to know how Robbie got in that great of shape. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I should do that. But then
Yeah.
he actually tells Kelvin that he works out 6 hours a day every day
For 20 years.
for 20 years. So maybe not.
Yeah.
But anyways, he was a Central Intelligence agent. So that's got to be where the movie title comes from, right?
Yeah. No, we think not. The entire movie, of course, will pivot around that high school pep rally, some of the people who laughed or didn't, and the present day Dwayne Johnson, who's now named Bob Stone, and the present day Calvin Joyner, who is this forensic accountant. So yeah, he's not so happy, Calvin, as this accountant because he was this big star in high school. He's missing his star athlete days. But yeah, we're going to figure out how do they name this movie Central Intelligence. It wasn't because of the Central Intelligence Agency, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll get there. But I
yeah,
have another question, Dan.
yeah.
So they started us 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And then how are they going to get the present day Bob Stone and the present day Joyner back together? Right? They
Well,
haven't seen each
obviously,
other in 20 years. How would somebody do that today?
obviously through Facebook, of course, and that's how he finds them. Right? He texts them through Facebook, messages them. All right. Joyner gets this Facebook friend request from Bob Stone, who wants to meet him at a bar. What? Why would the heck would Joyner accept that? He doesn't even know who Bob Stone is. Bob Stone wasn't the name of any kid he went to high school with, really.
Right? Because it would have been Bob Weirdick or Robert Weirdick or Robbie
You're right.
Weirdick
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something like that.
Right.
Not Bob Stone. Yeah.
Right.
So this makes me think that Calvin's not too smart. I mean, I wouldn't have accepted that. I mean, it's been 20 years. It sure would seem like a scam to me
Yeah.
coming in from a name that I'd never seen before. There's no way I would click on it, yet he does.
Yeah. And he kind of explains later that, he didn't know if he should accept it or not. If he doesn't accept it, they might know that he's not accepting it. And so he accepted. I mean, he kind of explains it away a little bit, but, still.
He doesn't sound smart when he does.
Yeah, right. All right. So, well, he does, and it does the job of getting them back together face to face in this bar. Again, he going to meet this guy in a bar. I don't even know who he is really. And now Joyner knows who Stone really is. He sees him, and Stone needs the skill of Joyner as this forensic accountant on this special mission he claims that he's on. We don't know that at first. We're just trying to figure this out. Okay.
Now, I do like the way they filmed that scene, or they wrote that scene in the bar.
Yeah.
Because it has I'm looking for somebody, I'm not sure who it is. It's how we find out that they meet. You learn a lot about Bob Stone's character in some of the things he's doing. There's a great callback to a meme from Dwayne Johnson from years ago that we'll talk about a little bit later. I mean, there is a lot in this little scene. It's not that long a scene, and it also has my favorite line in the movie, and we'll talk about that later too.
Yeah. All right. It's a great setup. And so Central Intelligence is obviously the Central Intelligence Agency, right? No, as we said before.
We've said that twice now. We've said no twice.
Yeah. It's that if you're not paying attention, because their high school is called Central High.
Central Intelligence. Ooh, very good.
Yeah, Central High. And yeah, really the plot pivots around these characters, and the movie unfolds to tell us who at Central High was intelligent and who was not, who treated Stone right when he was Robbie Weirdick and who did not. The true intelligence quotient here is measured in this way. So Central High was where some, during their high school days, were thought to be the smart ones and others not so smart. So Central Intelligence, the movie, will set us straight. I like this. The CIA is just the reason for the rest of the movie and why it's a spy movie. That's it. There you go. All right.
So we're cracking the code of this spy movie, and we finally told you it's a spy movie. Up to this point, it's been comedy or cringe stuff, right? Yeah. And it really took us a while to get there. I mean, because it's not until 30 minutes into this movie that we find out it's a spy movie.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we knew it because we read the description, but when you're watching it, you have no clue. And there is plenty of intrigue and second guessing we have to do as agents from the CIA show up at Joyner's house the day after they meet in the bar, looking for Stone and saying he killed his ex-partner and is wanted for murder.
Yeah.
That's normally not the way you want to start your day, Dan.
No. And the lead agent there is Pamela Harris, who is brilliantly played by Amy Ryan. She's terrific. You also may recall that she had a major role in the Hulu series Only Murders in the Building. And we'll do more on her in a minute, but man, she was really, really solid in this movie. There are surprise twists that keep the audience engaged. So that's great. So Stone needs Joyner to help. And the real thing that is going on is that countries are bidding on a stolen list of satellite codes. The CIA agents make Calvin Joyner think that the bad guy is Stone. And Stone says he's trying to find the real culprit called the Black Badger.
I love how they give these villains names.
We got a name.
That's good.
Black Badger.
So we have in this movie, it's not a knock list. It's a list of stolen. It's a different kind of list, right? And we're going to have a double pursuit in here. So, okay, we've got a very unique so far sounding spy movie.
Yeah. All right. It's well played out, and the confusion for all continues until the end, really. It's really well done. All right. This is good.
Okay. Now I've got a couple questions here though, Dan.
All right.
And the first is at the beginning of the movie, you talked about the fact that they had these actors in both scenes, right? The 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. How did they make The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, look like the boulder? Right. I mean, how did they make him like a blobby boulder? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Fat Robbie's body looks much more like me than Dwayne Johnson. So if you look at the face, I mean, you can tell they de-aged him, but the body, that doesn't look like a bodysuit.
No, it's fantastic, actually, the way they did it. We did a little research on this. EW.com had an article interviewing the director, Ross and Marshall Thurber, who was on this movie. And he said, wow, this is how we did it. And it's really a great, fascinating story. I don't know. Should we cut this down a little bit, the story? Because
no, actually, Dan, keep it in because I actually like it. So go ahead and tell it. But first, let me make a comment about Ross and Marshall Thurber.
Yeah.
Right. He did this spy comedy movie in 2016. He worked with Dwayne Johnson in the 2018 movie Skyscraper. And again, in the Netflix spy movie Red Notice.
Yeah.
And for comedy fans, he wrote and directed We Are the Millers and Dodgeball, a true underdog story. So this guy can do comedy.
All right, there you go. All right. Quoting from this article, then, quote, when I was working on the script, this light bulb went off in my head where I thought, of course, the kid who was bullied in high school, who was a little overweight with acne scars, would transform himself into The Rock, says the director, Rawson Thurber. Now, there was just one issue: how to execute a naked make under. I didn't want to ask Dwayne to drink tons of milkshakes, said Thurber. And fat suits, no matter how good they are, always end up looking like fat suits. So enter visual effects master Veta Digital, the Avengers, for instance, who superimposed Johnson's face onto viral video star and all about that bass dancer, Sione Kalepi's body. If you've ever seen Sione Kalepi's body,
Yeah, and I don't want to denigrate the guy, right? I mean, because like I say, I'm not exactly svelte.
no,
right?
I'm saying they used his body for this.
They did, and he's actually quite popular on Vine and Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Extremely.
the cool thing is how they found him.
It's all
right?
over YouTube.
He had this viral YouTube video out there of him dancing at his cousin's wedding. I mean, this guy wasn't an actor. He was just out there doing this thing. This video gets posted. He gets found. They saw the video and said, that's our fat Robbie.
There you go.
I just thought it was very cool how they do that.
Yeah.
But so we didn't do a fat suit. So then what did they do?
Yeah.
I mean, they had this guy's body, but Dwayne's face was on him.
Yeah. So they were using this cutting edge combination of high resolution 3D facial scans, performance capture, think dozens of tracking dots affixed to Johnson and Kalepi's faces to pick up every wink and wrinkle and so on. And of course, CG animation. So
yeah, now we talked about those dots, Dan, and the superimposing of an actor's face in our episode with stunt performer Rick English. He was talking about how they did that with him and Colin Firth in Kingsman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was fascinating. Yeah.
Now, when it's done well, it's hard to tell who is the body under the face when they do it like that. Now, in this case, you know it's not The Rock's body, right? But
yeah,
still,
right.
I thought it was actually very well done.
Yeah. And then they had to, of course, de-age Johnson's face because he's supposed to be 18 in the scene, said Thurber. So they did a decent job of that, really. I mean, it looks
and I think
fantastic,
it looked like they de-aged Kevin Hart too.
Yeah. Thurber said it took about 6 months in post. As it turns out, even he was astounded by the movie magic, he said. Quote, he said, I was so surprised with how photoreal and believable the final product was, said Thurber. You get rough versions, and then the next thing they send you is the version where your breath kind of catches in your throat. So, wow, that was great. So, I mean, this was pretty cool. And then you'll see it, you think, how did they do it? Now you know how they did it. Fantastic, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you found that article because I love hearing about this backstage stuff, how they do some things. And the fact that they found Kalepi and how they found Kalepi, got him hired into the movie and made this work. I think that was just fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Before we continue, we'd like to give a shout out to some of our listeners who gave us feedback on some of our recent episodes. So a big shout out to Alex Duna for his feedback on our Eye of the Needle, Jim Phelps for Canary Black, Bill Canis, and David Zariski. Yes, David, for the feedback on Defending Denise Richards, which they liked, and Simon Woolley for the same episode, who said he likes our stuff, but thought this episode basically sucked. All right. Thanks to all. We love hearing your feedback, so keep it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the cool thing about that is I like getting the positives and the negatives because if you send me a negative on something, it means
we're going to fix it.
And we'll fix it.
Cool. All right, Tom, let's get back to Central Intelligence.
Okay, now the next thing, which we touched a bit on earlier, is the dynamics between Johnson and Hart. This movie will not work if those actors don't have chemistry. You've got this buddy comedy movie, and this dynamic must be perfect. And basically, I think they do a very good job here.
Yeah, it's fantastic, actually. There are moments where you will literally chuckle out loud. And there are moments where you truly feel what each is thinking about the other, and their facial expressions are priceless. I mean, Dwayne Johnson does great stuff with his facial expressions, and Kevin Hart, too. It's a major highlight of the movie, providing plenty of laughs and heartwarming moments, which we loved. And the blend accomplished between action and comedy was spot on. The film successfully combines action sequences with comedic elements, making it fun and entertaining to watch throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I think another strength of this movie is character development. The
Yeah,
backstory of Bob Stone
terrific.
as a bullied teen who becomes a CIA agent adds to his depth of character.
Yep.
And I thought that was pretty well done. And he kind of has a obsession with Calvin. And it comes
Yeah.
through the movie. I mean, that backstory there filters through the whole movie all the way through the end.
Yes.
I don't think that Calvin Joyner was as flushed out though. I mean, he was the Golden Jet in high school, captain of everything, and now he's the financial guy.
Yeah.
But they have a few things scattered around the movie about his life didn't turn out like he expected. But for
All right.
me, that's one character I would have liked to have seen a little bit more development on. They spent a lot of time on the development of Bob Stone.
Yeah,
Not
no,
as
you're right
much.
on that. And I think, one cool thing though is when they went back to high school to visit after the bar scene, that was kind of cool when they're looking at all the pictures of Calvin Joyner as this big star athlete. He was a thespian. He's an all. If you notice when they're giving shots of these pictures, in the background, virtually in every one of them, is Robbie Weirdick. He's in the background of
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
them.
these.
Yep,
And that's
absolutely.
kind of weird. I mean, well, it
Well,
shows
he
like
kind of was obsessed with Calvin.
yeah, I know. It kind of looks, yeah, it kind of looks like that. Anyway, another call out worthy of attention really is Amy Ryan. She's, again,
Yeah, you mentioned her
play,
earlier.
yeah, we mentioned, yeah, playing Pamela Harris. She is pretty much perfect casting. She's been in Gone Baby Gone 2007, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead 2007, also Win Win 2011, Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance 2014, and she's been in about 70 other things, including Only Murders in the Building that we mentioned, Bridge of Spies, where she played James Donovan's, Tom Hanks's character, his wife Mary Donovan, and Lost World, Strange but True, and Worth, to name a few. She
Now, and
is
Dan,
a
Dan, let me stop it there because one of the things for me is she's one of those actors who I never remember her name, and
yeah.
it's too bad. But I see her, I see her up there, and I'm like, I'm glad she's there, and she does a great job in this role.
Yeah, I mean, she is a fine actor, and she does a remarkably fine job here in Central Intelligence. A very real and believable character with perfect line delivery, meaning that you think she is who she is portraying. Really, a highlight of the movie. There is another Only Murders in the Building linked to this movie. There is a character in this movie called Jared. He's the guy at the airport who owns a snake. Anyway, he's one of the handful of actors in this movie who is also in Only Murders in the Building. And his character's name in Only Murders in the Building, Rudy Thurber. Now, just as a reminder, the director of Central Intelligence is Rawson Thurber. It's just one of those things that make you go, yeah, okay, all right. Anyway,
Because there, it is amazing how many of these little things you see in movies.
yeah,
It's like, oh, we pulled this from that, we pulled this from that,
yeah, I love that actually.
which kind of leads us into influences. How does one movie or TV series influence another movie or TV series? And for us, it's really one of the cornerstones of our podcast is to take a look at these things.
Yep.
Now, normally, Dan, we only look at spy movies, but since this is a spy comedy, some of these influences are pretty much thrown in our faces. So we're going to mention some comedy movies or TV series that influence this as well, because it really is, both are needed to really understand what's going on here.
All right.
You know what, Dan, as I'm thinking about the plot, and
Yeah.
we talk about influencers, we have here a movie where there's a spy who may or may not have gone rogue.
Yeah.
We have an agent meeting up with his or her friend from high school
Uh-huh.
after not seeing each other for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We have a double pursuit, a reluctant spy. The MacGuffin is about a USB key with encryption keys, and there's an auction site.
Hmm.
Now, and it got me thinking, isn't that the overall arching plot of the movie we just reviewed called The Union from this
Yeah,
year?
2024.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Calvin was not Bob Stone's boyfriend, although Bob Stone seemed to have a crush on Calvin, not necessarily a sexual crush, but
No. Yeah.
an obsession is probably a better word.
Yeah.
Roxanne Hall and Mike McKenna in The Union were boyfriend and girlfriend, but they still were friends in high school. Time's gone by, and now they're getting back together again. These
Yeah.
plots to me are very, very similar However, Central Intelligence is much more comedic than the Union.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
much better movie than the Union.
yeah.
But to me, if you take it at a very high level, to me, this overarching plot is almost identical.
That's a good point. Now, I want to talk about a plot twist without giving it away, though. It's a key point in the movie. But I will say that we've seen this plot twist in Melissa McCarthy's movie named Spy. We also see it in Goldeneye. So again, not wanting to give it away, if you watch the movie for the first time, Central Intelligence, that is, after listening to this episode, those two movies will jump into your mind when the big plot twist happens. So keep that in mind. All right.
Now, you mentioned Melissa McCarthy. She's in this movie as well. Right?
Yeah.
So
Little
yeah,
cameo.
little cameo. It's kind of nice. Right
Yeah.
now, and also I'd forgotten about Spy. Right, when you say this thing with Melissa McCarthy, I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
that it has this twist in it, and when I was watching, I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of like Goldeneye, but boom,
Yeah.
it's also in Spy. Right now, there's a character in this movie, Central Intelligence, called Steve, and he's the office clown who's always dirty with what he says and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, it seemed to be a rewrite of the character Drew in the comedy movie Office Space.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that Steve had to be inspired by Drew because they're very similar characters
Yeah. Yeah.
where they come off.
Yeah, that's a good point. And think another homage to Office Space occurs when Bob Stone shoots a toner cartridge that came from a
I
printer.
love that.
All right. In Office Space, they smash a printer to pieces. So both of these movies seem to hate printers. All right.
Yeah, and
Anyway.
there is something comedic about destroying printers. I'm not sure what it is, but it's there.
Yeah. All
Now,
right.
another influencer of Central Intelligence is seen at a point where the spy is moving towards a window and shoots it to weaken it. I mean,
Mhm.
just before they break through the window, right? They shoot the window, try to weaken it, and then they go through it.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've seen Ethan Hunt do that a couple times, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we've seen it in other movies as well. It's a fairly
Yeah. Yeah.
common
Yeah.
trope.
Right. It seems to be a typical scene.
Yep.
Yeah, another thing that happens near the end of the movie, after stopping the evil, Calvin and Bob show up for the reunion in a helicopter. Although they didn't skydive in, it kind of had that feeling of License to Kill, a pre-title sequence. It was a bit closer to the 1979 movie, The In-Laws, though. But anyway, it was a cool scene, very cool scene, especially after everything we saw
The
during the
In-Laws, what
movie.
a
So
great comedy. Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. All right. Yeah, and at one point, Bob's son gets under a vehicle to disable its GPS. Now, the license plate of that vehicle was Q07976. And at first, I thought, oh, it's going to be a 007 thing. That was Q07.
Yeah,
And they had to be, there
I
had to
had the
be a
same.
call out, though, somehow to Bond, right? The
Yeah, I
Bond
had the
series.
same thought. That really looked like they were trying to put a 007 in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Now, another movie, another comedy that gets a lot of references in here is the movie Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one often repeated line by Bob that says, "I'll see you on the other side," which comes
Yeah. Yeah. He says that
directly
several
out of
times.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. And of course, there's a bunch of call outs to the movie 16 Candles, including a take on the ending of that movie. But this time it is a red pickup truck instead of a red Porsche 944. Now, I have a little story. I got kicked off a shooting set of 16 Candles, by the way.
I would have kicked you off too.
They shot a lot of that in and around the Chicago area. And there is a drive-in restaurant, kind of a 1950s drive-in restaurant where you go drive in, you park your car, you talk in the speaker, they bring the food out on a tray and hang it on your window. One of those things from the 50s. It's still in existence in Chicago. It's called
I've
Super
eaten there.
Dog. Super Dog, DAWG. And I was passing it one day and I was like, man, they got all these old cars in there. This is cool. I loved old cars, you know. And I thought I'm going in there. So I knew this back way and then through an alley to get into this place, not off the main street. I'm driving in the back alley and I go in there and there's all of a sudden people are screaming at me, get out. We're filming here. Get out. So I ruined the shot apparently.
Nice.
Actually, they cut the scene. It never appeared in the movie. So I may have ruined it for them.
That's pretty
Anyway,
good.
that's my 16 candle story. All
Yeah,
right.
and again, there are multiple callbacks to this movie,
Yeah.
and part of the plot actually kind of feels like it. Again, not romantic, but Bob Stone does seem to have kind of a guy crush on Calvin.
Well, and here you talk about other movies. Hercules, of course. Dwayne Johnson was in Hercules.
Yeah,
And
and
what's
Calvin
the
says to him, "Boy, you look like Hercules
Yeah,
now."
that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like the first time he meets him, man, you look like Hercules. It's like, oh, okay, all right, all right. They got that in there too. All right, there's also a call out Doogie Howser, MD, Men in Black, Family Guy, Roadhouse. I mean, it goes on and on. Pitch Black, The
Oh
Fast
yeah,
and
no, in
Furious.
Road with the Roadhouse one, Bob
Yeah,
Stone does something that happened in Roadhouse, and it's like, whoa.
yeah, right. Yeah, and there's more. Yeah, Goodfellas, Born Identity, Barbershop, Twilight, Game of Thrones. There's stuff in there. They have loaded this movie with references to other movies.
Yeah, and sometimes the reference is just a line, and sometimes it's something
Yeah,
they do.
yeah, right.
Now,
Exactly.
I want to go back to that scene in the bar because there's a reference here, and like,
Oh,
I really like this scene, and my favorite line comes from it.
it was a great scene.
There's a waitress played by Megan Park, and in this scene, she's like fawning over Bob Stone because he's the Rock, right? And she
Yeah.
doesn't care at all about Calvin. And as Stone and Calvin leave the restaurant, the waitress says, "Oh my God, I hope he's Catholic."
Yeah.
That
That's a good
just
line.
that just totally cracked me up. And it happened to be a callback to her character, Grace Bowman, from the TV series The Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, I had a similar experience, not directed at me. I was in a bar with a guy who was a really good looking ex football player, and we're leaving the bar, and literally four women came up and gave him their phone numbers. I mean, just out of the blue. It
So
was
you
kind
were
of
playing
crazy.
Calvin then.
I was Calvin then. I was not getting the phone numbers, which was good because I'm married.
All right.
But
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
all right, now there's also this one repeating joke about Bob Stone always wearing a fanny pack. And
Oh,
I
yeah. He's
mentioned
got a
that
fanny
way,
pack on.
way at the beginning. He's always got a fanny pack on. And why it's here is because there was a 1994 picture of Dwayne Johnson where he wore a fanny pack. And this thing turned into a meme. Right?
Yeah.
He's got this turtleneck, this chain around his neck. He's got this brown fanny pack. He has like a tissue or paper towel or cloth or something under his elbow as he's resting it on this concrete stairway. I mean, really bizarre picture. And this meme became so famous that when Johnson hosted Saturday Night Live in 2017, one of the bumper pictures, the things they show in between, as they're going
Yeah.
to commercial or coming back, was a recreation of that photo.
That's
So
good.
it's great to see Johnson allowing Central Intelligence to poke fun at him about this. I mean, he seems to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a recurring joke through the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got the unicorn thing he does too. He's
Yeah.
got the unicorn shirt on. Dwayne Johnson as Bob Stone, and he
Yeah.
says the unicorn's like the most fearless animal or something on earth. And then, if you notice at the end at the reunion when he's pulling his clothes off and stuff, for a split second, you see a unicorn. It's either like a band-aid or a tattoo kind of, not a tattoo, but a sticker kind of thing on his butt.
Oh, I missed that.
It's a split second. They could bring that back in too. So anyway, those are some of the movies and TV shows that we think have influenced Central Intelligence, and in some senses, Central Intelligence may have influenced others. And yeah, we have lots of explosions, chases, fights. The bar fight when Stone first meets up with Joyner after the Facebook friend request is awesome. It reminded me of a short version of the Kingsman bar fight. It is both understated and overstated all at the same time, which means the acting, directing, and editing was just perfect. It was great.
You say a short version. It is a much shorter version.
Oh yeah, it's short.
I mean, it is quick.
Yeah, it's a great scene. The dialogue is great.
It sets the movie up well.
There's something you need to know about me, Bob Stone says to the four guys that are up against him. I don't like bullies. You got to go back to high school, right? Where they bully them there. It is, in general, a fun movie. We really enjoyed the overall positive message of the movie. The themes of self-acceptance and friendship are woven throughout the story in a masterful and fun way. Kudos to the writers and directors and actors. Fantastic. Of course, there are some critiques of this movie as well, but not so many serious ones. One is, it's got a predictable plot. Some viewers found that the storyline is somewhat predictable and formulaic. In a sense, we can say, yeah, okay. But in another sense, as we pointed out, there are plenty of twists to the storyline to keep you guessing.
Well, and I also think the fact that they're interjecting the humor with the spy movie helps with that because it might be predictable, but they present it differently.
Yeah.
Right. And you can also spend your time trying to figure out which movie you've seen a lot of these other things in.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's okay. All right.
Okay, the second thing is that some people say there's over the top humor. Well, to me, that's not a problem. The humor
Yeah, I
can be
like that.
it can be exaggerated at times, which might not appeal to everyone.
Well, yeah.
And it's ridiculous sometimes, but who cares? I mean, we can just
Yeah.
smile and move on for more comedic moments. And they're enough to make this fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then others say, hey, there's technical inaccuracies. What? Who cares, really? There are some unrealistic elements, especially in the action scenes. Yeah, we can look at most James Bond movies and say the same thing. All right. Or Mission Impossible, or name it.
How many spy movies, and this one doesn't, have a piton gun? Right? You talk about inaccuracies.
Yeah, we must have a willing suspension of disbelief to watch any of these movies if we want to enjoy them. So what we say is enjoy them. There you go. All right. How about this one that's virtually in every darn movie you can review? Pacing issues. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The film occasionally drags, particularly in the middle sections. All right. This critique is the most accurate of the critiques. There are moments in the middle section that slow things down a bit, maybe a little too much. So this one I think is spot on. I agree with this one.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Dan. All right.
There.
Now, the next thing I want to talk about is corny dialogue.
There's plenty of that.
But I think that's part of the humor, right? It's because it's trying to be over the top a bit.
Yeah, I don't see it as a critique.
Because it can come across as cheesy. I mean, so yes, it is cheesy dialogue, but we don't think that'll detract from the fun of this movie. And I actually think the corny dialogue enhances the entertainment value of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Who doesn't like a grilled cheese sandwich? Come on.
Oh, jeez.
All right,
cheesy.
let's go to more of the reasons why we think that the movie Central Intelligence will resonate with the audience. All right, number one is it's got a relatable theme. The film touches on themes of bullying, self-acceptance, and redemption, which many people can relate to globally. This is
totally. And this comes out at numerous times throughout the movie to help drive these things home.
Yeah.
And to me, it's hard to fault a movie trying to promote wholesome themes when they're not trying to just shove it in your face.
Yeah.
It's, the whole thing about bullying. I got bullied as I was a high school kid.
Yeah.
I hate bullies. Boom, we go on. And yes, I'm going to say I hate bullies a couple times.
Yeah.
As he has these different interactions. It's nice that it's there, but I also like the fact that it's not like shoved in your face.
Yeah.
So another positive here are the strong performances by the leads in this movie, right? Because it's something every viewer can relate to, the way they actually do these things. They add to the relatability of the situation for many viewers.
Yeah.
To one degree or another, we have all had experiences similar to what's happening in this movie. Okay, maybe we haven't been on a spy thing where there's shootouts.
Yeah, well, theme-wise at least, yeah.
Yeah, but relationships, bullying, they bring it home with strong performances.
Yeah, and humor and action. We talked about that again. It permeates the movie and allows the audience to relate even more with the characters in these scenes. We are entertained pretty much throughout the movie, so we love that. And then the overriding positive message, you mentioned that as well with the bullying and all that stuff. The story promotes the idea that it's never too late to change and that true friendship can come from unexpected places and is one of the most valuable things about the relationships between human beings. This was well done in a comedic buddy spy movie. These elements contribute to the film's appeal and make it a memorable buddy action comedy. All right, have you watched it yet out there? Let us know.
Okay, so Dan, you just said if you watch it, so I'm going to go here, right?
Okay.
It's time for me to give you a watch trivia question.
Oh, wow.
There's a shot of the watch that Dwayne Johnson / Bob Stone is wearing in Central Intelligence. What brand of watch was it?
I'm guessing it's not a Timex.
It's not a Timex.
No, I don't know.
It's a Hamilton khaki automatic.
Nice.
So any of you watch fans, there you go.
All right, there's your watch trivia from Tommy Loves Watches. A lot of spies seem to wear nice watches. And since that was a bit of trivia, it's time to answer the trivia question at the beginning of the episode. The question was, what does a license plate on the red truck at the end of Central Intelligence say?
Okay, Dan, that would be GLDN JET or Golden Jet.
The Golden Jet.
The way they show you that truck is right out of 16 Candles.
Yeah, actually, him leaning against the red vehicle, his hand in his pocket, everything is exactly the same shot, basically, except different kind of make of vehicle. But Golden Jet was kind of weird because, we had the Golden Jet in Chicago, Bobby Hull. Played for the Chicago Blackhawks hockey team for a long time in the 60s and so on. He was called the Golden Jet.
The Golden Jet.
So I was thinking, hey, maybe
Yeah, there was no hockey reference. I was waiting for one.
So I was thinking maybe Kevin Hart came from Chicago, and that's why they call him the Golden Jet. But no, he grew up in Philadelphia, I think. So I looked that up. All right, that's a wrap. Central Intelligence is a buddy action comedy that benefits greatly from the strong performances of its leads. Let us know if you've seen it yet. This episode will enhance your viewing experience when you do watch it. All right, this has been Dan
And Tom.
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Subscribe to our show right now and to our YouTube channel as well. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks.